Partnered by Times Influence.
The fourth edition of Nipman Foundation Microsoft Equal Opportunity Awards 2017 was organized recently in the national capital to recognize and reward private sector companies that not only promote employment of persons with disabilities but also remove all physical and attitudinal barriers, encouraging them to flourish. The gala event was flagged off by a welcome address by Priyanka Malhotra, Managing Trustee, Nipman Foundation.
Welcome to the Nipman Foundation Microsoft Equal Opportunity Awards 2017. The awards in their fourth year now have become the premier platform to recognize companies that recruit persons with disabilities. This year, we've increased the scope of the Equal Opportunity Awards. However, we thought that it's important to highlight and talk about the larger umbrella of diversity, because the challenges faced and the battles needed to be fought by persons with disabilities, women, LGBT community and other oppressed classes are very similar.
The award ceremony was preceded by a power-packed panel discussion where some of the most prominent personalities across industries, media houses, government representatives and social activists came together on a single platform to discuss and deliberate on the issues of diversity and inclusion.
My first question is actually going to be to Sanjay. Sanjay, how do you think, because this is an award function which is with Microsoft on technology, how do you think technology can really improve the business case for hiring people with disabilities in corporate India?
Monster, right from the beginning, the basic ethos has been a platform for equal opportunities. And obviously, when we look at talent all across, and there are various researches that are going on, that diversity breeds kind of leadership, team building, and obviously has an impact on the bottom line. And we being on the technology platform, if we can reach across to people with special abilities in some way, and today mobile is a great platform, and then you have other means as well. And obviously on the other side, there is a demand from the employer side. And if that connect can be built, which earlier through a conventional route of hunting for jobs in a newspaper and then looking at and how to find a better opportunity, would be very, very tedious. So I think technology has really, really bridged that particular gap. So I think there we are playing a good role. Some of the examples could be that the CII Special Ability Portal is powered by Monster. We have a special section on the site for women, which is Women on the Go. And we also look at age as a diversity coming up. So career after career is again for retired professionals who are looking at looking for a job and starting a career all over again. So I think technology is a great platform to build it on.
Ritesh, would you like to add something to it? Because I know IBM is doing a lot of work on technology, but I would like you to not restrict yourself to IBM, but talk about technology as a whole and how it's empowering people with disabilities too.
Sure, I think technology is making, helping make an inclusive world. So we are working on technologies where, Watson is helping us create a more accessible vehicle, for example, for not only people with disabilities, but also the elderly population, right? We have technologies being developed in India, which is using eye gaze. The eye gaze technology is helping people control, control software, control equipment through just the gaze of the eyes. And one thing to remember is while technology is being built and making lives of people with disabilities easier, the same technology can actually go to a broader sense. The same eye gaze technology which can help control equipment can now also be used, for example, in the medical space to diagnose people on the autism spectrum. Or you can take it to a retailer and say, we always have in the retail, right, how many, or marketing or advertising, how many eyeballs did you get? This is literally taking that and saying, okay, with the eye gaze technology, how many people visited your store or how many people visited your e-commerce site? So I think technology coming in is making everybody's life easier in terms of being more included. At the same time, technology is helping us create better products for the world.
Jeff, you've of course lived in US, you've lived for 9 years in Africa, and now you've come to India. So what are your first observations when you went to Africa and then we went to India, and how do you think accessibility really enriches the society in that sense?
Africa's a very hard place to be disabled. There's almost no infrastructure to help somebody who's in a wheelchair or has a hearing disability. I did a big story a few years ago about albinos, people who suffer from albinism. And equatorial Africa is the worst place in the world to be an albino because your skin gets seared by the most powerful rays of the sun. And on top of that, albinos were being hunted down by people who believed that their body parts would bring them good luck. And so as a journalist, we're not supposed to do pieces that just reinforce stereotypes that make Africa look, primitive or bloodthirsty, or, there's a term we use at the New York Times, ooga booga, something that reinforces this image of Africa as like way behind the rest of the world. But this was really happening. And there was very little support and help for these albinos who were already suffering and then were facing this wave of killings. And I wrote about these like little kids who had been hunted down by people and murdered and then, destroyed and sold their pieces. So it's just an example that, these the societies are on a continuum of opening up. It's like going in one direction. I see it. Maybe that's too optimistic. But in the United States, first women got the right to vote. Then blacks got the right to vote. Then, it opened up to diversity issues, to disabled people. Now the gay rights and the LGBT movement is like the big battle, transgender. And so I see it as opening up.
Rama, you of course set up a museum in America which focused on disability rights and advocacy. So, and I'm sure you must have assumed that Indian disability rights movement was also progressing at that time. So how disappointed were you on coming back to India, and what do you think really needs to change in that sense?
I didn't set up a museum. The museum already existed. I did curatorial work and identification of artifacts for an exhibition on disability rights movement. So I worked on the exhibition and wanted to treat it as a civil rights movement. So I did about 24 oral history interviews with the pioneers of the movement in the Midwest, identified objects, artifacts that will tell the story of the struggle for access in the United States. For instance, looking at the way the design of a wheelchair has changed in the last 100 years, will tell you the story of access, will tell you the story of prejudice. Looking at the largest collection of hearing aid devices also tells you a story of Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri had that collection of about 350 hearing aids spanning over 300 years. And so if you just look at the design, you also understand the narrative, the historical narrative, that when the social prejudices and the push for justice, the disability rights moment in India is where probably United States was in the 60s. In the 60s and the 70s, the West Coast pioneered a movement called the Independent Living Movement. It started in California, and it was successful because they tailored the movement and its slogans around the most cherished and quintessential American value, which is independence. And they said, this is not a movement for charity, for pity, for subsidies, for welfare policies. It is a movement for independence. We want to declare independence. We do not want to be dependent. To shift the lens, I do not want to be a tax consumer. I want to be a taxpayer, is what many of them said. I want to be productive. I want to participate in the economic life. If you give me jobs, then I want to be able to pay taxes. That immediately shifts the perspective, and I think that went a long way in the United States, at least, to change attitudes.
Right.
So that was one of my first introductions.
Thank you so much. Coming to you, Apsara, I remember being on a panel with you in Bangalore where we were speaking about various diversities and the challenges they face in the corporate sector. And one of the basic things you said is that the LGBT community, people in the corporate sector are not even sensitized about what the LGBT community requires in that sense when you go and hire somebody from the community. So I would love it if you could expand on that and also speak about the challenges the LGBT community as a whole faces in terms of employment in India.
Talking about the LGBT communities in mainstream workforces and teams, I think most of the hiring happens out of tokenism or sympathy, and I think that needs to change. Also, I think in the places that I worked at, I worked in many newspapers. I've started off as a reporter and went on to being the senior editor of multiple newspapers, and even with the BBC in London. But I think initially everybody judged me based on my gender, and I think a lot of stuff was done to kind of there would be hushed whispers. People would walk away from me when I walked into a canteen. People would have the most harsh, cruel, baseless things to say about me. But if you're good at your work and you're competitive and you deliver, and I think that's what people judge you on eventually, and I was bloody damn good at it. You know, if somebody stepped on my toe once, I would step on their toes 10 times because I'd be good at my work.
Winners of the Equal Opportunity Awards 2017 were evaluated by an independent panel of jury members on predefined parameters. This year, the awards were divided into 4 major categories. The first award was in the category of Innovation to aid PWD's Technology, and the winner was Jello Communicator Team. In the same category of Innovation to aid PWD's Technology, the second winner was Biju Varghese. In the category of Innovation to aid PWD's Non-Technology, the award was bagged by Kickstart Services. The next award in the category of Innovation to aid PWD's Non-Technology, the winner was Amber for Life. The third winner in the category of Innovation to aid PWD's Non-Technology was Easy MOV Solutions.
We also have a launch of a small booklet, and this booklet summarizes all the award winners. You all will be getting a copy, and we hope that you get inspired by their work and also the applicants' work. There were 68 applicants this year. I would request Mr. Jay Diadra and Anish Shandy from Advisory Board to come up also, and also my brother Manik Malhotra to come up for the launch of this booklet.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Really, it is a special occasion for them, for Nipman. And just to say that you've come such a long way already, you know, from the first time that I was associated with the awards, and, you know, there was hardly anybody in the function and the jury, and the applications were so small numbers. But I think this will grow into a movement where soon enough you will see all the 2.2% people covered. I'm sure that will happen, and Nipman Foundation would be at the very vanguard of that movement as we go forward. And I wish you all the best for that. Thank you so much for bringing me. Thank you so much.
The next category was Employment of Persons with Disabilities, and the first winner under this category was Eureka Forbes. The next award under the category of Employment of Persons with Disabilities was given to Aegis Customer Support Services. The third winner under the category of Employment of Persons with Disabilities was Synchorony International Services. In the final set of awards under the category of Entrepreneur with a Disability, Divyanshu Ganatra, founder Adventures Beyond Barriers, was called on to receive the honour. Finally, in the category of Entrepreneur with a Disability, Danish Mahajan, founder Radio Udan, was the man of the moment.
Thank you, Nipman, for calling me here. Nipman has always been associated with me. When the National Trust launched the Inclusive India campaign, he was the first person to discuss the outline and the framework of this campaign. So first of all, we should assimilate the social model of disability in our thoughts, policies, systems. In fact, we should totally internalize. Long years, we believed in something called medical model of disability, which means there is something wrong with that person with disability and it needs to be fixed up, like a doctor fixes a disease. But after long years of experience with persons with disability, we realize that disability does not arise out of impairment. Disability arises out of an interaction of persons with impairment with the environment. So I'll give you an example. A person on wheelchair sitting in this audience is as effective listener as anybody else when he's participating in the whole thing. But the moment you ask him or her to come on stage when there is no proper ramp, he or she feels disabled. So the disability has not come from inside. It has come from the lack of a proper ramp in the environment. Now, this has to be internalized by each and everyone. There are some barriers in the environment which need to be rectified, which need to be corrected. That is the social model of disability. We knew that this country is so huge that we could not convert billions of buildings to accessible buildings. What we did is we created an ecosystem. So we selected 1,000 buildings in the country from various states. We asked every state to give us a list of buildings which are most frequented by persons with disabilities, like hospitals, colleges, schools, police stations, collector's office, SP office. We converted them into accessible buildings. So this was an indication that yes, this is an important thing and this could be done. We changed the national building code of this country. Now the latest national building code, it makes it as powerful as something like having a fire certificate. So without a fire provision in the building, you would not get a proper completion certificate. Similarly, without having an accessibility in the building, you would not get a completion certificate. It is all, we have to decide what kind of future we want to have, what kind of tomorrow we have. We have to collectively do it, whether it's NGOs, whether it's government, whether it's Microsoft and people like that. Thank you so much for coming.
Before we end, I think I just want to sum up one thing that we really learned at the panel discussion, Riddhi, and at the awards, that I think it is important to spread love and diversity, and let's not judge people on the basis of who they love, but on their heart, on the basis of what they eat, but rather instead on the value that they speak, and not really on the disability, but on their ability. And to spread this message further, we have a unique spoken word poetry performance by Abhishek Aneka and Divya Dureja. Guys, can you come up on stage, please?
You see, no matter by what name you call me, no matter by what term you sell me, your mask comes apart as soon as you have one look at me. There, you see?
You see, all we ask for is empathy, our rights and accessibility, ramps and no stairs, brains on our computers, friends and companions who innovate together, and better the world shall be.
The fourth edition of Nipman Foundation Microsoft Equal Opportunity Awards 2017 concluded on a highly motivational note, with a musical extravaganza performed by specially abled artists, bringing the event to a heartwarming close.
आशाएं खिले दिल की, उम्मीदें हंसे दिल की, अब मुश्किल नहीं कुछ भी, नहीं कुछ भी। Na 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 na.
Our mission at Microsoft is to empower every individual and every organization on the planet to achieve more. We can't be true to our mission if we don't understand the word empower every individual, and we need to therefore be able to allow that empowerment to happen in any context. So right from the foundation of what we build in our products, what is the culture that we are building in our organization to create a more inclusive environment for hiring, for projects that we do, and enable people with all walks of life to participate in a goal that helps achieve a more inclusive environment. Whether it's how we look at technologies of the future and how they create an environment for people across all walks of life to work together and be able to support people with any kind of disability, physical or cognitive. And the last one is about partnerships, and partnerships with NGOs, with government organization, and for example the Nipman Foundation that we are truly proud to be associated with.
When we started our business, which was about 23-24 years back, it was on one fundamental thing, that we will be a platform for equal opportunity. So on our platform, we don't allow employers to search candidates by gender. Right, that's the first and foremost thing. We always say that there is a job, there is a requirement, and hence you choose the candidate basis the skill, experience and qualification, right? So that is the core of the business that we try and promote. Apart from that, we promote gender diversity. We have a section called Women on the Go. We have partnership with various organizations who are furthering this particular interest. We are looking at our alliances with CII. The Special Ability Portal is powered by Monster. Indian Air Force people, to give them career after career and other, that's again a specific section that we are investing on. So we are totally committed to bring diversity into workforce.
Partnered by Times Influence.